The thing that has infinitely bothered me for the last few years now is how people seem to have such a great, immense difficulty with the concept of what truth is. It's almost as if what is actually true doesn't particularly matter much anymore. This has been defined as a post-truth mindset, and this mindset has blossomed into a full-on culture of confusion. When we look at our world today and see all of the questions being asked amid our post-truth culture that's not truly committed to sound answers, it's hard to imagine a time more confusing than now. We are in desperate need of clarity to rightly answer the questions of our day. What does it mean to be human? What is human freedom? And is it the same as autonomy? Do our rights have limits? Is there transcendent meaning and purpose to our human existence? Or are we the measure of all things? We need clarity to be informed individuals, to be honest scientists, and to be fair politicians. More than questions, I think we need answers. Yet, as we ask questions, our culture of confusion's answers always seem to be inadequate and don't provide satisfaction. The culture of confusion's answers only give birth to more questions. Have you noticed this? And we need something unmovable to guide us if we are to find answers that we can all live with. There's a perception in society today of Christians as enemies of progress and freedom. For some Christians, this perception means battle lines have been drawn. On one hand, other Christians respond by compromising the clarity of Scripture for the sake of acceptance and to avoid any conflict. And on the other hand, so many people on all sides have indulged in the cultural practice that's so common today, of vilifying those with whom we disagree. We start believing and spreading false stories about people that we see as the enemy. We are seduced into making them look bad while making us look as sympathetic as possible. This is one aspect to the insidious culture of confusion that I speak about. It creates an us versus them paradigm for all of us, no matter Christian or non-Christian I'm talking, but everybody. When we are eager to believe the worst about others, we bring out the worst in ourselves. But this is not the way we navigate the search for meaning and clarity as Christians in this kind of world. And even if the church's caving to the post-truth mindset has contributed to the larger cultural problem, then perhaps our rediscovered commitments to the truth can lead us back to the solution. Speaker Abdu Murray is whom I've gotten the term culture of confusion from, and he once said something that really resonated with me. He said, quote, "Post-truth has now blossomed into a culture of confusion. Confusion is embraced as a virtue and clarity shunned as a sin. The answers to life's questions no longer need to correspond to reality. They need only cater to our desires." But really, as our culture has embraced confusion and shunned clarity, like he said, have we really found ourselves to be better off? The divisiveness of rhetoric has become just corrosive. If someone takes a stand that we disagree with on a particular issue, we label them in the most mean-spirited way possible, never mind whether they actually may have a point. That's the culture that we live in. The consequence of living in this kind of a culture of confusion is that we get concepts like freedom entirely wrong, and this creates problems. What is the root of this post-truth mindset that fuels the culture of confusion? Well, we've mistaken autonomy for freedom. Autonomy is the main reason preferences and opinions are elevated over top of facts and truth. Anything that challenges our preferences, even if a challenge is laced with facts, it is deemed offensive and oppressive. When autonomy robs us of our reason, our accountability, and our value for individuals, we become desperate for deliverance from the chaos. Your freedom, on the other hand, operates at its best within the confines of truth. Confusing freedom with autonomy has enslaved our rational minds and our moral senses, and soon it may enslave us altogether. These are the cultural and moral consequences, really, of ditching truth as our guide. But we have the opportunity here to search once again for the source of true freedom. So, the current climate we live in which people seem to be forcibly prevented from sharing ideas, has arisen because we have mistaken autonomy for freedom. As I have been saying, they are related, but they are still different concepts. In our post-truth culture, where preferences and opinions are elevated, anything that comes along to challenge our preferences, even if a challenge contains facts, is deemed offensive and oppressive. How dare someone disagree with my preferences or my opinions? After all, isn't freedom found in being able to fully express one's preferences and opinions without challenge? Well, Western freedom is all about the ability to do, feel, and say whatever we want so long as we don't hurt someone else, isn't it? Well, even if we do hurt someone else, it's only because, well, hey, that someone else isn't affirming our preferences. And that person is an oppressor anyway. If oppressors get hurt in the process, well, they had it coming. Freedom must have no bounds, and not even reality will be our boundary. Does that sum it up quite well? But what I've just described there, it isn't freedom, it's autonomy. While we typically understand freedom to be the power to exercise choice without constraint, as we all soon eventually find out, freedom becomes chaotic in a system without constraint. If freedom operates at its best within the confines of the truth. If freedom operates at its best within the confines of the truth. Boundaries are a foreign thing to pure autonomy, which means that truth is being sacrificed on autonomy's altar. And the pursuit of autonomy, not freedom, is what we're seeing today. This pursuit is really what is at the root of the post-truth mindset that fuels our culture of confusion. I mean, really, we have been pursuing autonomy since the very beginning of the human race. Adam and Eve sought autonomy from God. They sought to transcend the purpose for which they were made so that they could be the definers of their own purpose. We continue that pursuit today. What is the natural result of all this? Of this unfettered autonomy that we in our culture so desperately seek? Well, everything becomes subject to our personal preferences, even our pursuit of truth. So really, what we are doing is approaching knowledge the way teenagers approach parental authority. No one can tell me what to do. So, if each of our personal preferences is celebrated without truth as our guide, if we are all laws unto ourselves, then confusion is inevitable. When my law unto myself conflicts with another's law unto himself, then what can arbitrate between us, if not truth? When truth is sacrificed on the altar of autonomy, only chaos remains, which ultimately leads to bondage. Well, firstly, I'd like to extend a thank you to writer and speaker Abdu Murray for greatly helping me gain clarity on these issues regarding our culture's thirst for autonomy at the cost of many vitally important things. He wrote of this in his book that he called Saving Truth, Finding Meaning and Clarity in the Post-Truth World. And he's right. When we confuse autonomy for freedom, we end up courting chaos. And that's exactly what many in our culture have chosen. And it comes with sacrifices. The initial thing to fall next to our altar of autonomy is our ability to think and act clearly and wisely. And after that, our moral accountability. When we say anyone can do anything or be anyone, that's why moral confusion is the virtue of the day. We can cross the bounds of reality and justify it by this virtue. Moral clarity, on the other hand, shows us the objective truth beyond our preferences, the boundaries and limits to which we ought to conform. So clarity has become scorned, of course. Now I must be clear, I believe that we are all made in the image of God, but in our human rebellion against that purpose, in wanting to be God instead of being with God, we have become less than our intended and best selves. Okay, so the paradox is that in striving to go from bearing the imago Dei and with accountability to God to accountability to no one, we have lost what it means to be human and to value other human beings. And so our third sacrifice is our sense of human value. When we become laws unto ourselves and become the measure of all things, then we determine which humans are valuable and which ones are not. If you pay enough attention, you'll see this is already going on in full force in our culture.